I'm Eduardo, and this is the JavaScript Haunted House. Congratulations! It seems like you made it through the first challenge and reached the library. Now let's see some new stuff that may save you from an evil spirit in the future. You never know. In the first chapter, we learned how to display some data into the screen, called output functions. We also learned how to select elements inside the DOM. These command lines are called statements. JavaScript statements are instructions that are executed by the computer, one by one. In this example, we're finding the HTML element with the ID demo and telling the browser to write in it, "Hello, JS Haunted House." That's a single statement. Semicolon separates statements. This means that the semicolon ends a command. When separated by semicolons, several statements can be declared on the same line. Just like most programming languages, JavaScript uses variables in almost every statement. Variables are used to store data and can be created and changed at any time. JavaScript uses the word var to define variables, followed by the name and an equal sign to assign values to the variables. All variables should be identified by unique names. These names can be simple letters, but typically it is used more descriptive names to represent variables. Note that the JavaScript ignores the blanks, so you can use spaces to make your code more readable. When creating variables in JavaScript, we must respect some rules in the variables' names. First of all, a variable name cannot begin with numbers. We can use numbers at the end of the names if we need to. Variable names also cannot contain spaces. A good practice is to store the variable name in lowercase and then use camel case. Another cool way to declare variable names is to use underscores to separate two or more names. JavaScript variables can store numbers, text, and some other types we'll cover later. For now, remember that the text values are called strings. Strings are written inside quotation marks, and numbers are written without quotation marks. If you put quotes in a number, it will be treated as a string. If you don't put quotes in a string, it will be treated as a variable. We can declare several variables in a single statement. To do so, simply start the statement with the word var and separate the variables with commas. We can also declare a single statement on multiple lines. Don't worry, I know it may seem confusing, but there is no difference between them. Just stick to what you like it most, and let's go on. To change the value of a variable, we can just type the variable name and use the assignment operator to assign a new value. Note that we don't use the keyword var again in front of the variable, because the variable has already been created previously. If we execute this code, we can see that the result is corpse Chris, because it was the last change in the ghost variable. What happens if we declare a variable without assigning a value to it? The variables without a value will be undefined. Okay, let's now talk about comments. A comment is a piece of code that won't be interpreted by the browser. Comments can be used to explain blocks of code and make them more, let's say, understandable. We may use comments to inactivate a part of our code. There are two types of comments, line comment and block comments. A line comment is represented by two bars and will comment the whole line. The block comments are represented by a bar followed by an asterisk at the beginning and an asterisk followed by a bar in the end, commenting all the code inside them. It is usually multiple lines. Now that we have learned how to declare numerical variables, let's move on and see how to do math with them. Arithmetic operators are used to do math with numbers. Let's see how we can use them. Starting from the basics, we can add, subtract, multiply, and divide. These operators work the same way as in most programming languages. The modulus operator returns only the remainder of the division. As we can see in this example, the remainder of 34 divided by 10 is 4. If you're asking yourself where you would use it, I can give you a simple case, when you need to know if a number is odd or even. It's time to really use our inventory. Do you see those numbers on the wall? It seems like a sequence. Let's use JavaScript to get them. If we look closely, each number has an ID. Let's declare 3 variables and use inner HTML to get the contents of each one. After that, each variable has one value. Let's now create another variable to receive the result of the concatenation. Note that since we get the values with inner HTML, they are strings, not numbers. Done. With a console.log, we can see the results. Why is there a number written on the wall? I guess we should save it, just in case. We have the result stored in a total variable, and we want to put it in the slot within the li tag. We need a way to select only that element. As it does not have ID or classes, we will select the parent element, in this case the UL, grabbing it by its ID inventory. After that, we use the word children to select all child elements of the UL element. And by doing this, we are creating an array. Don't worry about arrays or navigation between elements now. We will talk about them later. For now, just know that to access an element within an array, we use the position index. We use this position index within square brackets, starting from position 0. If there were older slots, they could be accessed with children 1, children 2, and so on. That way, we get the first element, and with the help of inner HTML, we put the value of the variable total. Done. Item saved. What happens if we put an expression in our JavaScript code? Just as in math, the operation inside the parentheses is evaluated first. In this example, we can see that the JavaScript also works with negative numbers. So, in this expression, the first thing that will be evaluated will be minus 5 times 3, which is minus 15. After that, 2 times minus 2, which is 0. Finally, minus 15 minus 0 result in minus 15. Assignment operators assign values to variables. In many cases, we need to assign the result of an operation to a variable, and in these cases, we need to use the assignment operators. In this table, we can see the assignment operators as well as the equivalent conventional way. Using these operators, we can see how they perform operations and assign results in a reduced way, saving code. The plus sign has still another use, join strings. When we join 2 or more strings, we call this concatenation. Note that a space has not been added between the strings. If we need a space, we can do this little trick. Concatenate a space between the variables or add a space at the beginning or end of one of the variables. We may also use the assignment operator to concatenate strings. Let's use the example of 2 separate words, spooky and inventory. The variable name now has the value spooky inventory. What happens if we try to add strings and numbers? JavaScript will evaluate the expression and the result will be a string. But what if we want the equation, not the result? Simply put everything inside quotation marks, and it will be presented without being evaluated. You may have noticed that the door to get out of here is hidden, but where? I think it has something to do with these old books. I'm sure you'll find out and solve the mystery. Good luck!